Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. This is episode 425.
Hey, hello everybody. We are the Family Gamers. As always, I'm your host Andrew, and I'm joined by my lovely, wonderful wife, Anitra.
That's me.
And we are excited to bring another show to your ears. This week, we're going to talk about another listener request. We're going to talk about learning in board games, specifically as it relates to ELA, English and Language Arts.
But first, I bet you have a fact for us.
All right, sure. Let's jump right into our facts. So, last week we talked about a movie. Do you remember what movie it was?
Dances with Wolves, which I have never seen.
Which you still need to see. But anyway, whatever. And it was episode 424. So we talked about how much money it made, which was $424 million in 1991.
Okay.
Well, we're back with another movie fact this week. It is not a movie that grossed $425 million. It is, in fact, a fact about the highest grossing movie of all time. Do you know what that was?
All right, so that's not in any way adjusted for inflation for anything. I'm going to guess that this is Avatar.
It is Avatar. Okay, so here's
Inexplicably.
the cool thing about Avatar. The estimated production budget of Avatar was $425 million.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And it is...
It made a lot more than that.
Yes. So far, it has grossed $2.9 billion.
That was a good return on investment then.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, so that's my fact this week, short and sweet. Avatar was made for $425 million.
And I have a message from our sponsor, First Move Financial. As a reminder, First Move has been working through a series telling us how they would work with a hypothetical young couple earning a combined $100,000 with a net worth of around $25,000 and the goal of buying a home in the next few years. Continuing with the student loans from our last example, depending on the paydown strategy, this couple may need to start saving for an eventual tax bomb. If you have loans forgiven, the IRS counts that as taxable income. The rules around that were specifically changed to not include student loans that were forgiven before the end of 2025, but if this example client is in a forgiveness program and won't be meeting their number of payments requirement in that time, then they'll want to have money saved up to pay the taxes on the forgiveness. These are really important nuances that are helpful to know, and companies like First Move Financial can help you be aware of looming tax problems related to your current financial situation. If you're trying to figure out if you are on the right foot with your finances, you can set up a totally free call by going to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers today.
Thanks so much to the team at First Move Financial for sponsoring another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. So, Anitra, we didn't mention this last time because we didn't want to spill the beans on what was going on in our lives or whatever, but we just got back from an 8-day vacation.
Yes, we went to Disney World and Universal Studios.
Yeah, all in 1 week. It was kind of bananas.
It was extremely bananas, and we ate a lot of bananas.
I didn't know you were going to mention that. We ate 10 pounds of bananas, which was crazy. But the thing that I did want to mention is we brought a bunch of board games with us, and we thought we were going to have more time to play board games. But because we were rope dropping every morning at some various park, we were falling asleep at 9:30 and making lunch at 7 a.m. and things like that.
Yeah.
So we didn't actually end up playing as many board games as we had hoped on vacation.
And unlike the last time we did a big family vacation like this, our kids are older now. So they were also staying up at night, but everybody was just gassed when we got home from the park.
We were just laying around,
basically,
appreciating the air conditioning.
Yes, but also basically everybody's endurance level was much more similar than when the kids were younger. And you and I had way more energy compared to our small children who would run around and then fall over.
Yep.
And then we would still have time and energy to do things at the end of the day.
Right. So
that was not what it was like this time.
Not anymore. But anyway, we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I got to go to Super Nintendo World, which is like a bucket list item for me.
It was so cool.
It was really pretty neat. But that's kind of the very, very high level what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks is, planning for that and going and doing that. But we did actually cram in some gaming. In fact,
A couple.
We played a couple of games, but one game we played, I think, 6 times.
At least.
Yeah. And that is the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game.
Yeah, so we learned this before going on the trip, and then we played it several times in one day when we actually had some energy.
Yes. Well, so we learned it. We played 3 games learning it, and then we introduced it to Asher, our board game nerd, and we played a few rounds at Universal at the table in the hotel.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And look, the game is good. The game is not earth-shaking, amazing, whatever. Like, this is a well-themed, cooperative trick-taking game like The Crew or something like it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you've played any of the iterations of The Crew, the gameplay here is going to feel very familiar in that it's a cooperative trick-taking game. You always have a slightly different goal or set of goals that different players are going to have to meet. But the thing that sets it apart from The Crew is that it is really well themed. And if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, it does feel like it is drawing from the bits of the story as you go along.
Yes.
The biggest example is every single chapter, Frodo is a required character, right?
Yep.
The person who's going to be Frodo is determined by the way the cards are shuffled. Whoever gets the One Ring card has to be Frodo and has to accomplish Frodo's goal. So most chapters end up being pretty much, how can we help Frodo accomplish his goal? Because the ring cards are kind of weird. They have some restrictions around them, and Frodo needs to win most of the ring cards. How can we do that while also accomplishing every other player's goal, which can get really tricky, as we found the 4 times we played with our son, because we played the same chapter 4 times, and it was just really, really challenging to try to balance everybody's needs. Part of it was that Frodo basically needed to win pretty much all of the tricks except for 2.
Because the limitations on the other characters were win at most 2 tricks and win only 1 trick.
Win exactly 1 trick.
Yeah, so that was pretty difficult. But it's the same kinds of feelings that I had when I played through The Crew, just with different theming. Probably better theming, I guess, right? The Crew is invented out of whole cloth in terms of, what was going on and stuff like that. And this is obviously the story of Fellowship. So yeah. What else we got?
Well, on our trip out, our plane had to make a detour and stopped, and our son Asher was actually sitting next to me at that point. So while we were on the ground waiting to get back up in the air and get to our final destination, I was like, what can we possibly do? Because you can't use the entertainment system or any of that stuff. And I pulled out the button shy game, Stew. Stew is a deduction and press your luck game for 2 to 4 players. The gameplay itself is super simple. Every turn, you draw the top card from the deck, you look at it secretly, and then you decide if you're going to put it face down in, quote-unquote, the pot, or if you're going to cover up one of the 6 vagrants, animals, whatever. Bad things happen cards that are all people and animals who might steal things out of the pot. You can, instead of doing any of that, decide to call Stew on your turn. When Stew is called, you reveal everything that's in the pot, you apply any effects from the animals and stuff that are left available, and if there are enough points worth of good stuff in the pot, then the person who called Stew wins that round. If there's not, then they lose that round and everybody else gets a point, basically. So it's this back and forth trying to get in the other person's head and trying to call Stew in the game early enough so that you're the first person to do it, but late enough so that you'll actually win the round. It's the kind of game that I like pulling out in situations like this. It runs pretty quickly. You usually play 2 or 3 rounds to get a full game. It's not one that we'd really want to play back to back to back to back the way we did with Lord of the Rings, the trick-taking game. By the time we get through a couple of rounds, we're like, okay, that was good. You handily won this, and we're done for now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, unlike Fellowship, where even if it's hard, there's very little friction in the game, and it's very easy to keep going. Stew definitely has like a back and forth tug to it. Like, there's a lot of friction in that game. It's almost uncomfortable to play. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, it's a weird way of saying
there's the race element, and you're also trying to figure out when it's worth to cover up stuff or not. And you have to very much get in the other person's head, but it's in an antagonistic way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the antagonism of it all that makes it so much more uncomfortable. But like when I play Stew, and maybe it's like, I don't know, the art isn't amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm a little unsettled, I guess, when I'm playing that particular game. There's something about it. I don't know what it is.
Sure.
But certainly, like, I'm fine playing the game. And then when the game's over, I'm fine being done with the game.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
So we did learn one other new game
we did.
while we were on vacation.
Right. So this is Cat Rescue. It's the second edition. This is from
Yes.
Tate Wu.
Yes.
I don't think anybody that played it really super loved it.
No. Although our son looked at it again later and said, wait a minute, there's supposed to be a competitive version of this game. Can we try that instead?
Okay. All right. So we played the cooperative version, which essentially what you're doing is you're putting cats on the board either from the deck or from your hand, and you have to go back and forth.
More or less, yeah.
And when you put a cat on the board, it like shifts the tiles that are on the board, and it like pushes cats off the grid, and then they get adopted. I don't know. It was really weird. I need to reserve judgment on this game because it was so odd and we were all tired.
Fair, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we played that game, and I didn't love what we saw of it, at least in cooperative mode. I think we'll play competitive and then go back to cooperative and see if it lands a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Mhm.
I like the idea of it. The theme is cute in that you're all running basically competing cat rescues, cat adoption agencies. And so the idea is you're moving cats back and forth from foster homes into this common shelter. When you get enough cats together that are similar, some of them become ready to adopt, which is just represented by flipping them face down into the grid. So then when they get shifted off the grid, if they're face down, they've gotten adopted. Hooray! If they're face up, they go back into foster care, which is basically the player's hand. Thematically, I like it, and I think it's a interesting way to do a sliding tile puzzle sort of idea, but yeah, the cooperative version was just kind of fine. It wasn't great. Didn't leave me wanting to do a bunch more. I'm interested to see if the competitive version will add some more tension there, because I think that's what it was missing. It's kind of, oh, well, now we do this, and now we do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is fine. We'll see when we get a chance to play it again, probably this week, how we feel about it then.
Sounds good. Let's see. We played a lot of Trio. A lot of Trio.
That one was easy to pull out, even when everybody was feeling kind of burnt, as long as they weren't completely blotto.
Mm-hmm.
Trio is still one that everybody in the family will sit down and play. And when we do, we then usually play several times in a row, because whoever wins the first time, everybody else is like, oh, I can't believe you did that. That's not fair.
Yeah. We pulled it out in the airport. We pulled it out in the hotel. We pulled it out basically everywhere. So.
When we had dinner once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you played the app version of Boop?
I did. So we were sitting in line waiting for a ride that had broken down. So we were sitting because we knew nothing was moving for a while. But also we didn't really want to risk going somewhere else and then not getting to ride this ride. And we did not bring a lot of stuff into the parks with us, but I did have my phone. And so I turned to our daughter and said, hey, do you remember playing the game Boop? Let's play it on my phone. I had already played the app version on my phone before. I like it. It preserves the cuteness of the game, but honestly, trying to play head-to-head on a phone was a little janky. Just like it wasn't always registering touches in the right place and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Playing it solo on the phone against like an AI opponent has been fine, but is not that compelling to me.
Okay.
Just kind of wanted to put that out there. We did play it. I would count it as really playing a board game because it was two people sitting in the same place playing together.
Sure. So there's only 5 games here, but there's a lot of plays in these 5 games.
There is.
So I actually consider it to be a pretty good 2 weeks, especially with everything else that was going on. Do you have anything else you want to add?
There's no other games that I have on my list, and I agree with you. It's not a lot of variety of games, but it represents a fair amount of time invested in playing games in the midst of being really crazy running around in 90 plus degree heat.
It was
and
disgusting.
90 degree
that's
humidity.
for sure. Anyway, I mean, I'm proud of us for shoehorning the games in, right? I mean, this is, something that we talk about wanting to do when we were able.
Well, and most of it didn't feel like shoehorning, which I think is also important.
Right. All right. Let's pivot a little bit and welcome some new members to the Family Gamers community. We didn't have a lot of members to welcome on the last show, but we have a whole bunch this week.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I will get us started by saying welcome to Jamie.
Welcome to Thoraman.
Welcome to Kirsty.
And Molly.
Welcome to Petronius.
Welcome to Ario.
Hello to Mulenga.
Hello to Saitu.
Greetings to Suyi.
Hello to Alex.
And welcome to Carla.
Thanks so much for dropping in. We have a happy, fuzzy little bouncy bumblebee.
Okay, that is what that is. I thought that's what that was. Why does the bumblebee only have one wing on the left side and two on the right side?
I don't know. Perspective? Maybe?
AI slop, I say. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, welcome to the community. We are so glad that you're here. Hope you are also listening to the show, and feel free to ask all sorts of questions about what people are doing in their families and what kinds of stuff is going on, what recommendations people might have. We have a lot, but we are not omniscient.
And let's get into a little bit of back talk.
Sure.
Because we knew we were going away on vacation, we asked everybody about their summer gaming plans. The answers we got were not quite what I expected.
Well, I will get us started by talking about some of the stuff that we got on Facebook. We got a bunch of comments about this. Let's see. Cherry said, I'll be bringing several board games with me on a cross-country trip next week, which she said a week ago. So that's right now, to play with some of my gamer friends that I haven't seen in a while. Nick asked what she packed. She said Ticket to Ride, Secret Hitler, The Bible is Funny, Hues and Cues, Monopoly Deal, Set, and Blank Slate.
Cherry, by the way, is the person who introduced me to Monopoly Deal 10 plus years ago.
And so every single time Anitra talks about this game on the podcast, you have Cherry to thank.
You have Cherry to thank.
Yeah.
On the Discord, Peter Schott sounds a lot like me when he says there's so much other stuff going on, just playing anything would be a win. We'd normally hit a local game meetup for a Saturday, but that's not going to be on this year. I feel that so hard right now, Peter. So hard.
All right, back on Facebook, Nick says, I would love more outdoor gaming on the patio with a bottle of chilled wine.
Probably not Vineyard, though, which Nick just reviewed for our site this past week. That feels like it's probably a little bit too complicated of a game to set up on the patio.
While drinking wine.
Especially while drinking wine. Yes.
Even though it's about wine.
Yes.
But if you want to read about that, you should go to thefamilygamers.com/vineyard.
Stefan responded on the Discord and said, we are planning to play Pandemic Legacy Season 1 this summer. It'll be my 4th time playing through it, but it's such an awesome game that I don't mind. He is also hoping to play Kinfire Chronicles with his daughter and use his vacation time to work on a couple of game ideas that have been floating around.
Ooh.
That'll be cool.
All right. Let's see. Mom Life After Stroke says, going to try to play a lot more with the kids. We have a full game closet, but it's hard during the school year. I feel that. It's not even the school that makes it hard. It's all the other stuff that makes it hard, right? Because they're not in school on the weekends, they're not in school in the evenings, but there's all of the other extracurricular things going on that make it really, really difficult.
Yeah. Back on the Discord, Adrian says, I'm hoping that at some point this summer, I'll have some blocks of time more than 30 minutes long to play games with my sister. Yeah, I'm feeling that too. Mm-hmm. I'm looking ahead personally in our summer, and there will be some times coming up, but I've got another 2 or 3 weeks before we can get to those times.
Yeah. So then Rob said, I have 2 trips planned with family over the summer, and both sides have already inquired about games.
You're doing it right, Rob.
#winning. I'd like to get Thunder Road Vendetta played, as well as Quacks, Las Vegas Royale, Spooktacular, and Frosted Blooms. Realistically, it'll be Flip 7, Trio, and Rebel Princess that all hit the table at some point. It'll be good time either way.
I love your attitude, Rob.
Yeah. I mean, I hear that, right? It's like, oh, we're going to play these really complicated okay, but also Flip 7's easy.
Courtney then recommended Duck and Cover, which is a super simple game, but she says there's good decisions, it's easy to teach, and there's quacking. Plays up to 8, but is not a party game.
This game is quackers. Anyway.
Sounds like.
I'm sorry. All right. The Joyful Jedi says, summer doesn't really change much for me. Opens up the possibility of playing games with my youngest, who just completed 11th grade.
Oh, man. Ooh.
Joyful Jedi is dangerously close to empty nesting. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's scary, man.
All right. Nick came back not just with Chilled Wine on Facebook, but he has a couple of things on his list on Discord as well. Another legacy game with friends, Pandemic or Ticket to Ride, and playing the Princess Bride chapter game, which is on the shelf of opportunity. He wants to play summer or beachy games like Santa Monica, High Tide, and Sanibel. And then teach the family Thunder Road Vendetta. Thunder Road Vendetta getting the second hit on this one.
And our last one on the Discord is Ken, who says he's trying to get 1 or 2 games out each week and playing with a group once a month. We have a few trips this summer where we'll take some games to play in our free time. And our biggest game will be when we get our copy of The Game Makers.
Sounds good. A lot of good chatter this week about the backtalk question, which I definitely like. So it's good stuff. All right, why don't we take a quick break, Anitra? What do you think about that?
Yes.
And then when we come back, we are going to talk about ELA learning in board games.
We'll be right back.
All right, and like we said, I think last time, we are going to use our break here to recognize our patrons on Patreon, and also just a reminder of how you can help the family gamers financially. So first, our shout-outs. We have 4 shout-outs this week. Kenneth Walker has joined the extended family. This means that Kenneth gets a birthday card and a holiday card of his choice, handwritten by you and me, Anitra.
Yes.
You or me. I don't know. I'm not sure. And we're really super thankful to Kenneth for being, part of the Family Gamers community. He's been around for a while, and even being so willing to support us on Patreon. Also, Da Fool Dude, Adrian Dong, and Sarah Parikh are on the list. So this means that they get either a birthday card or a holiday card of their choice. Once again, handwritten by either you or me. Probably signed by both of us, but probably only handwritten by one of us.
Fair.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, they, again, went over to Patreon and supported us at a membership tier, which is $5 or $10 in order to get those handwritten cards from us, and then goes up to $20. We'll talk about those a little bit more at the end of the show. But just a general reminder, you can always check out those tiers at thefamilygamers.com/Patreon, and you can see our merch at store.thefamilygamers.com.
And we're back.
All right, we are back. We're going to talk about ELA learning in board games.
So it's been a while since we've talked about explicitly academic type subjects related to board games.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of them, like the sciences, the hard sciences, right? Math.
So many board games have math.
Yeah, I mean, there are board games that explicitly have math in them, and then there's almost every board game has some kind of math in it.
If there is scoring or there is probability, there is math.
Right. And then science games, like Genius Games, does a ton of work in this arena where there's genuinely good games that also have a science theme to them. We talk about Genotype or Periodic or Subatomic or any of those games.
And there are a lot that are history or geography themed as well. Not Genius Games for that, but just in general, out in the world.
They have Artana games now, which is part of their line. And
those are more history.
Kind of history-ish. Yeah. But then there's the more liberal arts side of education, which is also important, but a lot more difficult to teach or work through with games.
Specifically with games.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing you can do for ELA skills is just practice reading and practice writing.
Sure. Yeah.
And the thing is that you can get small snippets of that in board games, but there aren't nearly as many that are really good at focusing those skills.
Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, broad scope, there's this idea that you can use games for learning. Like not just, you happen to be learning something when you're playing games, but like using games for learning called game schooling.
Yes.
And you've written a fair amount on the Family Gamers website about that. You actually specifically wrote an article about game schooling with ELA and math in that particular article at thefamilygamers.com.
Back in 2021, when I was doing some homeschooling, and it was with our giant gamer nerd of a son, so I figured games would be helpful here.
So the context there, right? So we've done a little bit of everything. We've done some public school, we've done some private school, we've done some homeschooling. And with our, now 15-year-old, just the hybrid thing just did not work for him. So this is post-pandemic or like mid-pandemic when they were trying to do this like 2 days in, 3 days out thing or whatever the
virtual
mess was. It was
nonsense.
Just a disaster. It worked okay for 2 of our kids, but it really was not working for him. So we ended up pulling him out and homeschooling him for a year. And now he's getting high honors every year. So clearly he's doing fine.
It may have only felt like a year to you, but it was actually 2 years.
Okay, well, that's fair. I mean, you were the one who was doing the homeschooling, so I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there was like massive time dilation in 2020, 2021.
Oh, my goodness.
So like I claim innocence on this one.
Time had no meaning for about 3 years.
Something. Anyway, so this is something that you did
Yes.
very, very specifically and deliberately.
But on the flip side of that, this was working with a kid who was already reading, already writing, just needed some sharpening on those skills and encouraged to practice. At the same time as we were doing this, our youngest was in public school and was doing the virtual hybrid, some in-person debacle. And there wasn't a whole lot that I could do with board games to really pull him in and get those foundational skills built.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at ELA skills, there's a bunch of sort of levels of skills, and we're going to separate them out into 3 main groups. But your mileage may vary. If you have very little kids, some of these will work, but a lot of them won't. If you have much older kids, these will be good practice. But if you're really interested in using games to bolster ELA, you're going to have to be careful to dial in the right level to get good, meaningful practice without being so hard that your kid is frustrated and gives up in disgust.
Right. So we have reading, we have writing, we have spelling and vocabulary.
Yes.
Right. So reading is one of these pillars, writing is one of these pillars, spelling and vocabulary is the third one. And we kind of wanted to approach each one of them separately because the games that really help with that, or at least what we've come up with as games that really help with this, are really different, right? There's not a lot of games that really help with working on each of these skills together.
Yeah, obviously they all build on each other, and as you get better at one, you should get better at all of them. But if you're trying to focus on a weakness, it's best to really try to focus in on the specific skill that needs more practice.
Right. So the first one is reading. This is something that just really hasn't been something we've struggled with our kids.
So I will say we did have very different experiences among our 3 kids of how they learned to read and how quickly, but none of them ever struggled in a way that meant that they didn't want to read. All of them always wanted to read. It just took longer to acquire those skills for some than others. All of them fit within what's considered normal age range for that. Our daughter was on the very early end of that range. Our sons were on the late end, but they weren't crazy early, and they also weren't a struggling late reader.
Sure. So let's do this. Let's start with this kind of question for you. What kinds of things would you recommend someone look for in a game to allow them to help their kids read?
I mean, this feels obvious to me, but you're looking for games that have text that needs to be read. That's a super basic part of this.
I want to make a suggestion amendment to what you just said.
Yeah.
It's all well and good to have text that needs to be read, but I would say that specifically you want games that have text that needs to be read that is in a prose format. So it's not a rule book. Right, where you're really looking to understand this larger, complicated. Because you could say like, oh, well, every board game has a rule book, so just read the rules.
Right. No, text in game.
Specifically, yeah. So the first one on this list is Tales of the Arabian Nights, which is kind of a classic game. It's been out for a long time. I think they've redone this, Tales of the Arthurian Nights or something like that as well. Tales of the Arabian Nights is basically, I'm broad stroking here, it's basically a roll and move blended with a choose your own adventure game.
Okay.
So you're doing stuff and then you're reading a story. And when I say prose, like that's what I mean. Like you have a book, you flip to a entry in the book and you read a section of text.
There is a story in there that you're reading. It's not just a few words here and there. That makes sense.
Yep.
I think the other thing you're looking for is things that have some sequentialness to them. It goes along with storytelling, that there's a beginning and a middle and an end in some way. Not necessarily across the entire game, although it could be, but there's a big difference between reading a single sentence and reading something and comprehending that there's a flow there.
Sure. So that's a little bit more difficult to really find in a game.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not really putting those kinds of things together. Although when we talk about some of the stuff in the writing section, that actually kind of happens by nature of the way some of those games work. But it's more than a sentence or two in a game like Tales of the Arabian Nights, right? So you do have a chunk of text reading what's happening. There's also cooperative story games. They're going to have significant amounts of text in them as well. I'm thinking of something like Familiar Tales or Mice and Mystics or something like this, where there's a significant amount of scenario setup that somebody can read and kind of go through. That is really helpful too. Heck, even Title Blades 2 has some of that kind of narrative setup, which can help with some reading.
It doesn't always have to be big chunks of prose, though. Smaller chunks of prose, as long as it's still moving forward in some way, can still work and feel less daunting for someone who's struggling. So for that, I'm thinking games like Her Story or Trekking Through History or games like that where there are big chunks of text, but they're not absolutely crucial to the gameplay. So
like flavor text kind of stuff.
Yeah, flavor text, but it's more than a single sentence. So in Her Story, every card that you have has sort of a mini biography on it. It's about 2 short paragraphs, but it's enough to give you a flow again of there's things happening within your very short story.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think of games like Tesla versus Edison, especially with the expansion with all the electrical luminaries. And if you look in the book, there's a little bio of every single one of them and kind of what they did, like Westinghouse and like Ada and all that stuff.
I'm specifically trying to think of games where that text is on the cards in the game, so you're not pulling out additional material right away.
So. Yeah.
Trekking Through History is about the same. You have various historical events, and there's like 2 sentences describing each one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is, another pivot sort of back where we started. Red Raven has a ton of games that have these sort of sections, which are almost choose your own adventure like as well, like Above and Below and Near and Far and stuff like that. So there are games that are available that are in print right now that are accessible family weight games. Above and Below and Near and Far are a little on the heavier side, but not really. They're not really. Those are all games that are fantastic games, super fun. And they have a significant reading component. In fact, if you're not reading, you're not really playing that game.
So the thing about these is that any of these games are going to give good reading practice for a kid who can read, but needs to work on fluency, basically.
Sure.
And just seeing more text in more ways. None of these are great for a kid who struggles to even figure out and piece together words. That's going to come more in our spelling and vocabulary section.
Totally agree.
But you can also build some of those foundational skills still with games that have no reading in them at all, but teach sequencing and one event comes after the other and things like that to get their brain ready for the other processing related to reading.
Okay, sure. I mean, when you were getting into sequencing and things like that, it maybe start thinking about the writing games that we're going to talk about. Do you want to talk about spelling and vocabulary next? Or do you want to talk about writing games?
Let's talk about writing next and leave spelling and vocabulary for last.
Sure.
So writing is a really hard skill to build on in games.
So there's sort of 2 things that I think we should mention here, at least. One of them is the penmanship part of writing. I'm not even going to talk about that really. I don't think that's something that we can really attack from a board game perspective.
Only insofar as I would say for a kid who has bad penmanship, but does not struggle to simply get words onto a page, the more practice they get, the better it will be. It may not ever be good, but it will be better than it was otherwise.
And we do have one game here that actually involves significant sections of time where you sit down and you write, and that is the game Tall Tales. This is a game we reviewed years ago at this point.
Yeah, looking it up, we reviewed it in 2022, almost 4 years ago. This is a game where you literally are cooperatively writing a story. You're given a artwork card that sets the scene, and then a little card or two to give you a prompt to work off of.
They call it the quest. And then there are rounds. There's 3 scene rounds. So this is basically the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story, right? The story is based on this image, which is a very weird Dixit style image. We'll talk about that later. A quest, which sort of gets you on your way. And then you have these 3 scenes. And the weird thing about this game is that somebody physically writes each of the 3 scenes. So I'm going to be writing scene 1, and then I'll be handing my story off to someone else who's going to be writing scene 2, who's going to then hand it off to someone else to write scene 3, or some variation thereof.
Yeah, it involves writing, reading them out loud, voting, and then kind of shuffling things up again and adding some new ideas and restrictions and writing more.
Mm-hmm.
So this pulls a whole lot of writing skills together. One of them is the physical penmanship, but another one is understanding how to take a prompt and turn it into something more. One of them is understanding that a story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's different trying to do that when you're working off of someone else's beginning and trying to figure out what could come next. I don't know if it's necessarily a harder skill than doing that in your own writing, but it is a different skill than doing it with your own writing.
I agree. Yeah, Tall Tales was kind of a weird game, but it definitely fits this unique requirement that we're looking at. Another one that does a really good job with the storytelling of it all is Untold Adventures Await. So this is a game that was put together by, I think it was the Creativity Hub or Hub Games. It's based on or uses the primary mechanic of Rory Story Cubes, but there are prompts that sort of give you an idea of, was this a very successful attempt to do whatever this thing was that the narrative is driving you towards, or was it an epic failure, or whatever it might be? Was the response positive? Was the response negative? So you have these kind of guideposts, and you just create a narrative story around the dice and the icons on the dice that you roll. So it's really a great storytelling tool, which is a huge part of writing. We talk about the flow of a story and what that looks like and what that sounds like and what that feels like. And a game like Untold helps you do that.
Since Untold is a game that's pretty hard to get your hands on these days, simply doing something similar but a little bit stripped down with story cubes would also work.
Sure.
If you are explicitly game schooling, I would recommend taking out some story cubes, rolling them, and then telling your kid to pick 2 or 3 of the ones that were rolled and physically write down, okay, what happened here? And if you want to work on the progression part, then do it again and say, okay, now from these ones that are rolled now, pick 3 again. What happens next?
Mm-hmm.
How do you connect that up? Having these extra tools along can really help a lot in giving some inspiration for the creativity required. Make no mistake, what we are talking about here is explicitly creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not restate my essay in different words writing, which is a different skill altogether. In fact, there is a game that is much easier to get that also helps with this idea of storytelling as an aid to memory and does not explicitly include a writing component, but you could. That is the memory game Bear in Mind from Chip Theory Kids. This is a memory game by Reiner Knizia, and we reviewed it about a year and a half ago, I think.
Wow, that long ago?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I really, really enjoyed this as an adult, as just a sort of gentle memory game that didn't feel like your same old, flip to, match to memory.
Sure.
But with a kid who's struggling with that, how do you make a story flow? How do you put things together? This is another thing that could be a really great tool because it gives you a setting and an object, and you have to come up with a story of why that object is now in that setting to help you remember it for the future.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about storytelling, RPGs in general come into play, right? The act of role-playing is effectively storytelling. I mean, if you're playing a role-playing game that is just a straight dungeon crawl, it's a little bit different. But if you are playing with your kids, certainly building some of that story into what's going on and encouraging some of that interaction is a really important piece as well.
And, of course, there is the now classic storytelling game, Dixit. In Dixit, one player has a bunch of cards in their hand. They secretly choose one, tell a story about it, and then put that card face down. No one has seen it yet. Everyone else selects a card from their hand that they feel matches the story that was told. Everything gets revealed. People end up guessing and voting which card is the one that actually belonged to the storyteller. Obviously, the better story you can tell, the better you'll do. Normally in Dixit, if everybody guesses the correct one, the storyteller scores 0, and the storyteller does better if only a few people guess correctly. But if you're just trying to encourage better accuracy and storytelling in general, you can adjust the rules for that.
Sure. So we have one more kind of pillar in our ELA game schooling, learning with games section, and that is spelling and vocabulary. So this is kind of an interesting one. We talked a little bit about this as we were putting this together. Spelling is tough.
Yeah.
Some games are very unforgiving. When you talk about this, like Scrabble is an area control game that masquerades as a spelling game. We've talked about that in the past. But one game that is a lot better about this is Bananagrams. We've talked a little bit in the past about board games for all ages and their B mods, their balance mods. And fortunately, there is one for Bananagrams.
They have a B mod for Bananagrams. I love that because I already liked Bananagrams as a not super high pressure way to make kids do some of that spelling work of what words can I make with the letters I have? How can I pull these together? And it's a little bit spelling and a lot vocabulary.
Right.
However, it can still get pretty cutthroat, especially playing with an adult who has a bigger vocabulary. So the Board Games for All Ages has B mods that change the difficulty, making it so that even a 6, 7, 8-year-old can have some additional abilities that will allow them to beat an adult who is playing at their best.
Yeah, I really love that about this. I mean, I think Bananagrams often kind of devolves into not so much the game of it all, but just the act of creating words and just having fun with that, right? As opposed to getting rid of your tiles or whatever the actual goal of Bananagrams is, which I don't even know, but that's not important. I think it's really great in that way, but vocabulary can get tricky, and that's why the B mods are so helpful. Another game that helps with this a lot, and actually I'm pretty sure we called out very specifically when we reviewed it, that having a huge vocabulary doesn't necessarily give you a huge advantage, is the game Illiterati.
So the reason it doesn't give you an advantage is because Illiterati is a cooperative game. I feel like this is an important point here. Illiterati is a game where everybody wants to use all of their letters, but you can share them with other players, and you're even allowed to help other players make words. Now, each player also has to fulfill words to meet their own individual goal, but because you can help each other, this is one where mom or dad can reach over and say, oh, it looks like you're really close there. Why don't I give you, this additional letter, and then you can spell this word. And so this shepherds a child along who wants to play these kind of games, but isn't quite at the level to be competitive with it. Right?
There's also things in Illiterati where you actually want to make a bunch of small words, right? You're not really looking to make one 8-letter word or something like you might in a Scrabble or something like that. It's beneficial because of the way the scoring works or because of the way the goals work at a certain time to make, 3-letter words or something. And 3-letter words are generally pretty easy to put together.
Yeah, most of the time you're looking at 4 or 5-letter words, but even 4-letter words are usually not going to be too hard. The other thing about Illiterati is it has just an awesome theme. You are working together to defeat these villains who want to destroy letters and destroy words and destroy literacy in general.
It's very silly.
It is very silly, but a theme like that, where it's a superhero theme, but it's much more organic and fits directly with the idea of the words, can really be an additional help to pull a kid in who, again, just needs a little extra push in this direction.
And if not, I mean, the villain references are enough to make the adults laugh anyway.
Yes, for sure.
So that is Illiterati. There's some other vocabulary games that we have on our list, which are games that you've heard of before. Scattergories is kind of a great one for this.
And helps you practice your penmanship.
Sure. Yeah, that is true. Yep, it sure does. I like Scattergories a lot because it really makes you think. And at the end of the day, this is usually not a game that people care about winning.
I mean, once again, your mileage may vary, but for the most part, sure.
So that's a pretty popular one, very widely available. And then also Tapple and Tapple 10. Which is
and Tapple 10.
Yep.
But Tapple specifically, I was actually really surprised. When we reviewed Tapple, our youngest kid was reading some, but not a ton yet. But he was able to play more or less competitively, depending on the category. And he would stay involved even after getting knocked out because he got interested in seeing, oh, what are other items in this category? Oh, that's really cool. Wait, I didn't know that started with this letter. or I didn't know that fit in this category.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really surprised me as a game I knew was for all ages, but just how young it could go and still be fun for the younger crowd.
Sure. All right. Well, I'm sure there's lots of other games that fall into some of these categories. These are just some that we thought of and wanted to talk about. It's not the backtalk question, but I would solicit any suggestions on any other games that might be good spelling vocabulary games, writing games, or even reading games that we could add to this list, and certainly we'll shout them out next show.
Yeah, I'm not really a teacher. I just kind of pretended to be one for a few years, nor have I had to deal with kids who really have a lot of difficulties in ELA. But I know that there are teachers in our Discord who have. And so I would love to hear what kind of games or what kinds of tools related to games you have used to help shepherd kids along and give them the practice and interest they need to keep working on this.
Sounds great. And we'd love to share that again on the next show.
For sure.
Just like our backtalk question. So we do have a new backtalk question this week, which is very simply, how do you treat your games? When thinking about games that you play with your family, how do you treat them? Like, what happens if a card gets bent? Like, what do you do?
I mean, some people around me
oh, wow. Wow.
Get angry.
Wow. Shots fired.
And
let's see, some other people that might be in this room.
And
I'm not saying any names.
No, you and I try to be pretty laid back about this, but games where cards need to be secret, like, that's really annoying if things get bent.
Okay, so let me tell you what actually happens with me when a card gets bent, Anitra. Usually there is a barely suppressed grunt, a grimace, and then some correction.
Deep breaths.
I usually don't even go with the deep breath. It's just like, let's maybe not stick the card in the gap from the drop leaf table. Like, let's maybe not do that.
Please stop doing that.
Or like if somebody slams a card down, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, come on. Yeah, look, I very much am a games are meant to be played kind of person. I specifically asked with this question with your family, because if you have, certain grail games, right, that you just would not bring out with kids because you just don't want to, like, that's not what we're talking about.
That's understandable, but that's not what we're talking about.
Sure. Right. So a great example of this for us, another one is Trio, right? We got Trio and we just played the poop out of Trio. We played it so much that we went out and bought another copy of Trio. And it wasn't even because any cards got bent or ripped. They just got worn out. Yeah,
they were getting really worn around the edges, pretty much all of them. There were one or two that had, I think, some slight creasing. And so we're like, you know what? We're just going to buy a second copy. It's fine.
Yep. And then we bought sleeves. But here's the funny thing. Trio has 36 cards and the pack of sleeves was 75 cards. So now we have 2 sleeved copies of Trio.
Right. And that was the thing that I think is interesting in this context, which is because we had sleeves left over, we decided, well, we'll sleeve the old copy too, and then we have 2 copies. Now we just play with both copies because sleeving the worn cards mitigated enough of the issues we had with them being worn.
Well, because the sleeves weren't on them when they got bent, for example. So the sleeves aren't bent. The sleeves kind of hide that crease problem, right?
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah. So let that also be an inspiration to you out there. If you're that kind of person where you're just like, oh, like, I can't believe it. That is not necessarily a solution, but sleeving can help if you have a game where that happens a lot.
There are also opaque sleeves. So if something happens where you can clearly identify a card from the back, you can use opaque sleeves for that. I don't love Mayday games, but their sleeve directory and access to purchasing sleeves and stuff is absolutely incredible. It's just unmatched.
Their sleeve picking tool is great.
It's totally insane. So if you want to pick up sleeves, that's how you do it. But I'm not one of those people who sleeves everything, right? Just stuff that is really getting tons and tons and tons of use. So,
yeah. Other than that issue, I think we are pretty laid back. We've talked in the past about how a game we had got water damage and we did ask for a replacement, but then we also looked at the game and we're like, this is still perfectly playable with some water damage. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. And this is a time to confess. It's okay. No judgment.
Judgment-free zone.
Judgment-free zone, right? This is Planet Fitness, the board game Discord.
I will judge Andrew, but I promise I won't judge anyone else.
Always and forever. Anyway, Anitra, how can people answer our Backtalk question?
The best way is probably on the Backtalk channel on our Discord. There will also be a post in our Facebook community by the time this podcast is up. If you want your response to be heard, but you don't like social media, you can also email us your back talk and we will read it out.
Andrew at thefamilygamers.com.
Anitra at thefamilygamers.com.
Of course, you can find us online in basically all of the places.
All the social media.
At our handle at FamilyGamersAA. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube. Of course, you can also join our Discord community. It is the Family Tabletop community. It has a couple of other creators in there as well by going to thefamilygamers.com/Discord.
And you can get to the Facebook community either by searching the Family Gamers community on Facebook or going to thefamilygamers.com/community, and that will bring you right into our Facebook group.
Mm-hmm. Please don't forget to subscribe to this show, tell your friends about the show, and leave us a review at Apple Podcast or whatever your podcast subscription source is. You can also find us on Amazon Music, TuneIn, Spotify, and YouTube Music.
As a reminder, if you'd like to support the Family Gamers, there are 3 ways you can do that. First, you can pick up some sweet, sweet merch. Big thanks to Matt, who just picked up a Play Games with Your Kids t-shirt. And there were some other folks who nabbed some things after we announced this 2 weeks ago. So thanks. Go to store.thefamilygamers.com and see the whole selection of stuff we currently have available. And if you want something else with our logo on it or with Play Games with Your Kids on it, let us know and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, or colors, right? Sometimes we pick some colors and somebody wants another color. We can try to make that happen. So just let us know. You can also support us on Patreon if that's more your speed. I mentioned that earlier. We have a few different support tiers from just a couple of dollars to show your appreciation, which we do appreciate, by the way, to $5, $10, or even $20 a month. There are all sorts of different rewards you can get, which we tried to make unique for what we do. So you can see those at thefamilygamers.com/Patreon.
The third way, which does not require you to spend any additional money outside of what you would normally spend, is to start with the Family Gamers for your Amazon shopping. Because we are an Amazon, they call it associates. We have an Amazon affiliate code, and you can start all your shopping at thefamilygamers.com. Scroll down, there's a big blue button on the right side of the page that says Shop on Amazon. Brings you right into Amazon, and we get around 1% back from everything you buy.
It depends. We do appreciate that very, very much. Music for the Family Gamers podcast is provided with permission from You Bred Raptors.
And the Family Gamers is still sponsored by First Move Financial. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers and learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points.
I was looking, and they have been a sponsor for like 250 episodes. That's amazing. We are so, so very appreciative to First Move for that. All right, Anitra, well, we're back from vacation. Things are starting to settle out. You said before, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have all sorts of free time.
In a couple of weeks.
That's imaginary. We pretend. It's probably not going to be like that, but let's just say it is.
Let's see if we can squeeze in a couple of games between now and then.
All right, that sounds good. So until next week, everybody,
play games with your kids.